Hello and welcome to the Holistic Success Show. My name is Dr. Robert Puff.
And I'm Elizabeth Lozano.
Today we're going to have a guest talk about chiropractic care, but a very unique form of care that can really change your life as it has with my co-host Elizabeth and helped her really deal with pain.
We're also going to be watching clips from Dr. Puff, who's going to talk to us about how to manage your money in a holistic way, as well as living a positive life.
And then we're going to have a question from you talking about how do you manage life when you're just feeling like you're catching up all the time.
And also we'll be answering a question, how to relax and how to unwind at the end of a stressful day. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of the Holistic Success Show. Have a wonderful week and we hope you enjoy the show.
I want to talk about how money fits into being a whole, healthy person, a successful person. I think a lot of times when we think of success, we think money, success. And that's actually not a very good analogy. Having money is part of life, it's important. And having enough to pay your bills is important. But it definitely isn't going to be the solution. I think for many, many people out there, I mean, it's amazing how many people think that if I have enough money, all my problems go away. And that just isn't true. I've been in private practice and working with very, very successful people. My office is in Newport Beach, it's right next to the harbor, so I obviously work with very, very successful people. And I've done a lot of speaking over the years and known, there's many, many people that have a lot of money. And there is just no correlation, and the research supports me on this, there's no correlation between money and happiness. It just doesn't relate. And if anything, having a lot of money can make your life complex, can make it complicated, and can just take you away from being happy because you have now all these things to manage. People are depending upon you, and it can actually add stress to your life. So now it is true, though. I don't want to discount that money matters, because it is true. If you don't have enough money, people suffer. But I think in the Western world, if you're watching it from a Western country, we equate having enough money as having a big home and our own cars and a lot of money in the bank. And most of the world does not live that way. I've traveled extensively around the world to very much countries that don't make what the Western world make, and yet they're very happy. They're very full. They're very, very content with their lives. They love their lives, and they have nothing. I mean, they live on a year what we may live on a day, and yet they make it, and yet they're happy. So how is that possible? How can you right now learn to have money be part of your health and yet be successful at the same time holistically? And it's really that. Make it part of who you are. Learn about money, educate yourself how to invest, improve yourself financially, try to make more money. But do it, I often use the analogy of doing it like the tortoise and the hare. It's like you can always get better and make more money if you move progressively forward. But I think what a lot of people do is they want to make money fast, they want to make it quickly, and so it's at the expense of everything, their relationships, their children, their health, and it just costs them too much. And that's where I think the negative effects of money kick in. You're willing to risk the whole pie to thinking this chunk is going to make that whole pie better, and it doesn't. I mean, they've even done studies on people that win a whole lot of money in the lotto, and what they found is we tend to have an internal set point for happiness. And let me explain what I mean by that. Is that inside of us there's a level at which we are at, whether I'm happy, I'm kind of medium, or I'm kind of depressed. And so that just stays where it's at for most of our life, unless we do work like we're doing on the show, changing ourselves. But if we don't change ourselves, if you win the lotto right now, if you leave here and you win the lotto, guess what? In about 6 months, obviously you're probably going to be here at first, but in 6 months, you're actually going to go back to the level of happiness or sadness you were at prior to winning the lotto. And studies really support that. But the reverse is true too. If you leave here right now and get in a car wreck, which would be very tragic, of course, but you break your back and you're in a wheelchair, within 6 months after that accident, even though at first you're going to be obviously very sad and depressed, you're going to go back to your level of happiness, wherever it would have been. So it just doesn't seem to have a lot to do with happiness money. But, it's important to learn about it, educate yourself. We're going to have guests on talking about how do you manage your money, how does it fit in the equation. It's an important part of it. And it's important to take time, a little bit of time on a regular basis to grow, to develop your skills in making money, to develop your skills in your job and get better at it, and investment, and making sure that that isn't necessarily like an irritant. I think not having enough money can be really annoying, can be rather upsetting. I think that's where people say, if I have money, all my problems go away. That isn't true, but not having enough money can be very upsetting. So I don't care if you're watching this the day I'm filming this, or you're watching this 10 years from now, there's always going to be people who are struggling financially, that have had some major loss. And perhaps that's you right now. You lost your job, you've lost your home, or you've lost something that really matters to you because of money. I think it's very important in that situation not to judge yourself. My favorite mantra or word phrase to say is, what can I learn from this? And right now, if you have lost your job, you say, hey, this is a great opportunity for me to change. When I've hit bumps in my life, I say, I need to learn something from this, and I always do. So if you're at one of those financial bumps, saying perhaps you need to take some more courses, perhaps you need to learn a new skill, perhaps it's God or the universe giving you an opportunity to change your life in a really wonderful way. I think having that attitude, putting money in perspective, really makes life go well. So it won't be the solution, because way too many people see it's a solution to all your problems. That doesn't work. Until you meet people, as I have in-depthly met people, hundreds, if not, I'm sure thousands of people that are very wealthy, it doesn't solve your problems. And you can say, I'll do it differently, but it's not going to be different from you. You need to make sure the whole part of your life is whole. All of it is working together to be happy and successful emotionally inside. So work on all the parts of it, but money matters. And make sure you learn about money, develop yourself constantly growing in the ways of, managing your money well and making money well, and you'll find your life will go well. So peace.
And now it's time for our questions. So this week's first question comes to us from John C. from San Juan Capistrano, California. And John writes in, is it realistic to think that with all the day-to-day responsibilities that we put into motion over time, can we find that balance and not feel like we are constantly playing catch-up?
Excellent question, and difficult question that I'm sure many viewers out there can relate to. And to start off with, I want to talk about, really, to address this question, the two favorite letters of the alphabet I think that can really help with this, N and O. And what do I mean by that is why we feel like we're playing catch up all the time is that we did put too many things on our plate. That plate gets higher, it gets higher, and then it crashes. And you are playing catch up. So what you have to do is saying, okay, if I want to live a balanced life, I have to start off with saying what's important, what matters to me, and if you don't do that, it crashes, right? Yeah, and then you say, okay, well, this is important to me. Do you have time for that? Are you sleeping, right? Mm-hmm. Are you spending time with the people that you love? Are you enjoying your work, and then you've got your kids, your friends. And then you add on all these other little things, like extra activities and committees, and you just get overwhelmed. So you have to get good at, and not everyone's going to like this, because if you're on a committee, if you need those members, you're not going to like me saying this. You have to get good at saying no to things and not always volunteering for everything and being involved with everything and taking everything on. It will overwhelm you, guaranteed. We can all of us have 24 hours of a day. If you're president of the United States or CEO of a company, we all have 24 hours. And the way we manage that is by not taking too much on our plate. And that's deciding, that's what this whole show is about, is what's important to you, what makes your life fly. And taking care of yourself physically is a huge part of that pie. Because if your body aches, your life sucks. Mm-hmm. If you're not feeling well, it doesn't go well. So
you need to prioritize on those days is finding ways for your body to feel better, even if that means you need to rest. And it might feel like you have to play catch up, but you know what? In reality, we can always be playing catch up. It's just you have to prioritize what's important and what really needs to get done. That's really important. But most important is you taking care of yourself, which encompasses all of what Dr. Puff has just been talking about, the self-care, the time with your family, the time with your friends. All those things are very, very essential, because at the end of the day, at the end of somebody's life, when they're lying on their deathbed, they're not going to say, oh, I wish I spent more time at work catching up on things. What they're going to say is, I wish I spent more time with my family.
Guaranteed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the most important. So it's a lot about just really taking a moment and sitting back. I think one little trick I recommend people to do, that I think to do, is that either at the end of the day or the beginning of the morning, just say, okay, what's today about for me? What do I have envisioned for this day? And is there stuff on my day that just is extra I don't need to do? It's overwhelming me. And I really do need to start saying no to things, saying no to people that are asking me favors, or stuff that isn't really that relevant. It's good to give. Of course it is good to give. But if you give too much, you get overwhelmed, correct?
Absolutely.
So it's learning to say no.
And there's consequences to those things.
Absolutely.
Like health-wise and emotion-wise even too.
Yeah. So I think, John, feeling like having to catch up, I think you should take a moment and say, okay, what's on my plate? Is my plate so full, things are just rolling off of it? And then saying, is there maybe, of course you're not going to change it overnight. You're not going to just say, I fixed it, Dr. Puff and Elizabeth, I got everything off my plate. That's not going to happen. But what if you started taking one thing off at a time? This little committee that you're part of, this little routine that you do, this little thing that you take on every week.
Or even asking for help. Maybe you have a secretary,
absolutely.
Or maybe you have somebody, a family member or a friend who might be able to help you with something so you don't have to carry it all. Sometimes we have that, like, I can only do it the right way that I need to do it.
Well, a great way of that is, I love exercise, and, my kids are a little bit older now, but we go for walks, but when my kids were younger, if any of you have young children, I used to, because I think it's very important to take care of myself. I would have, my son's older, so I'd have my daughter on my chest, one of the baby Bjorns. My son would be in the stroller. My dog would be hooked up to my waist belt, and we'd go for a walk. So I was spending time with my son, with my daughter, walking my dog, and getting exercise. So I was doing a whole lot with one fell swoop, and perhaps you can do that. But a lot of what it is, though, is really just realizing if there's too much on your plate, if you're catching up all day long, you are going to get overwhelmed. Take things off your plate so you're not catching up.
Absolutely. Good luck, and we hope that this helps you. Thank you for your question.
Thanks.
This week's guest is Dr. Alfred Tomp. He is an upper cervical chiropractor, and he actually is my personal chiropractor, and I invited him on the show because he has absolutely changed my life, because I suffered from extremely awful, horrible, debilitating lower back pain, and I was on muscle relaxers and Vicodin, and I was still in a tremendous amount of pain. And because of the work that he's done with me, I'm now able to walk and sit and dance and do all kinds of wonderful, amazing things that I couldn't even imagine doing at the time because I was in so much pain. So, Dr. Tomp, please tell us a little bit more about yourself and the work that you do.
Sure. Well, what we do is we do upper cervical chiropractic work, which specializes in the top part of the spine. And we find that if the top part of the spine is out of alignment, then that will cause the entire spine to shift out of alignment. The pelvis actually twists a certain way when the neck goes out of alignment. And if that's there, the entire spine is off, and that won't allow somebody to heal from a back condition, or they could also have headaches, and there's a variety of complaints that could arise from the spine.
Yeah, like
being
even
out.
I mean, I notice that when I'm out, my jaw starts to lock up, right. And there's all kinds of other things that happen. I'll get headaches and I feel sore, all these other things that go on.
Right, and the top part of the spine is neurologically the most sensitive part of the spine. Right up underneath the skull is where your atlas sits, and if you remember from Greek mythology, Atlas holds up the world. And so if you sustained a trauma as a child, or maybe a car accident earlier in your life, and that shifts just a little bit at the top, that'll cause a shift at the pelvis, and the entire spine kind of twists to compensate for it. So the typical chiropractic thing to do would be to adjust all those segments that are always off: the pelvis, the mid back, the lower back, the neck, but what's happening is, because the top part of the spine is off, if we can properly analyze that and put that back into place, the entire spine will come back to neutral.
And I know that you're really specific in the work that you do, because I know you've taken x-rays of me and the other people that you work with, and I notice that every time you're using like a compass and a ruler and all the stuff that's going on, and there's always things that you're measuring, such as, like, I guess even when I'm out, my one leg might be longer than the other, and you're doing all these checks. So can you talk a little bit about that and kind of where that plays a role in all the work that you do?
Right. When we examine a patient, a lot of times where we start the examination is at the lower back, or we'll also look at what's called leg length. And if there's a twist in your pelvis, basically at the very bottom part of the spine, if that twists and the top of the spine is out of alignment, it'll look a certain way. For example, when you lay on the table and one leg appears shorter than the other, it really isn't shorter. It's just because you're crooked on the table, your pelvis is twisted. And it could just be that you're crooked on the table, but when you turn your head, if that pelvis shifts, that means that there's something at the top of the spine that's influencing the bottom of the spine. So that's kind of one of the major tests that we do. We also run temperature scans where we It's a digital reader where we read temperature on each side of the spine.
Is that what that is?
Yeah.
I had no idea that was. I
Yeah.
thought it was like measuring my neck,
No,
like the
no,
curve.
it's a temperature differential scan. And what happens is when your body's out of alignment, there'll be certain areas of your neck where it's hotter and colder, and it gives what we call a pattern. So, if, for example, if your atlas is out of alignment, you'll have an atlas pattern, and I've got all the scans on you every time you've come in, so we can just pull that one back up and compare it to when you're in that day for a checkup, and that's one of the ways we can also tell whether you're in or out of alignment.
It's pretty impressive. I learn something new every time. And I know you brought a couple little
Props
here, and I think that not everybody knows what an atlas is, and I think it might be good to see what that is.
Right. This is the base of the spine right here. This is called the occipital
So
bone.
that would be
which would be right here on the occiput, just like that.
Okay.
And so and this is the atlas right here. It's a small bone. It holds up the weight of the head, which is in your case probably 8 to 10 pounds. In my case, maybe 10 to 11 pounds. So the head doesn't weigh that much. It's kind of like a small bowling ball. And if you sustain a trauma,
It's kind of heavy though if you think about that at the top of your spine.
yeah, it is because your neck is it's designed to hold up your head. But what'll happen is if there's a trauma and this is shifted off a little bit, that causes the muscles to react, and then the head can be carried forward. And I usually describe that like if you're holding a bowling ball in front of you, it's very heavy. As it gets closer to your body, it's a lot lighter. And so as we get that back into alignment, a lot of times patients will say, my head feels so much lighter. It's because they maybe suffer from headaches or whatever. And the weight of the head really is uncomfortable.
And I know we've talked about, because the work that I do, and which many of you actually probably do, is sitting a lot. So whether you're sitting at a desk on your computer, or you're a therapist and you're sitting in a chair all day, there's a lot of this action. So what you were saying is that your head's forward and it's not back where it should be. And that causes stuff too. And I remember too, when I was working at a desk a lot, I had the computer here and I was writing stuff over here, which many of you guys might do. You've got your computer here and you're like writing stuff over to the side. That also had a huge impact on me too.
Right. Yeah. And that mechanics of how you sit for long periods of time really does wear on your body.
So can you recommend some ways for people to sit that are, probably better for them, or is each person different?
Yeah. Well, neutral is probably best. I mean, if you're on a computer, you want to make sure your monitor is up so that your eyes are at eye level when you're looking at the computer. You want to make sure that you don't want your keyboard up really high. You want to make sure your shoulders are down in more of a relaxed position and your hand is actually down. A lot of times when people are on laptops, they get into trouble because the monitor and the keyboard are so close. So they're having to hunch down to see the monitor, and then their arms are up high, and that's really not a good position to be in. If you're have that situation, go ahead and put your laptop up higher, and then use an extension key and get your keyboard down in your lap. It's just a much better place than having your shoulders up like this. So ergonomically, and you also want to be as squared off as you can. So you just don't want to have your monitor off to one side and your mouse up so that you're just twisted for long periods of time. You just want to be in a very relaxed, neutral position.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I know that you brought also another prop with you with the whole spine there. So I don't know if maybe you can kind of describe about more the work that you do and what can happen with the rest of the spine if, what's going on up top is kind of messed up.
Yes.
Or out of alignment.
What actually happens is, and I think this was in my car and it got a little twisted a little bit.
In alignment
so what happens is that if the atlas gets knocked out of place at the top of the spine.
So the atlas, I don't know if you guys
here.
can see here, but it's the second one underneath where your head sits.
That will create a twist in the pelvis. And so
you can lower it down a little bit so we can see here. Okay.
Can you see the twist in the pelvis? So that actually creates a twist. And we measure what's going on here at the pelvis. And so
so let's see here. So if we want to see the bottom of it, there we go, right? Okay. So twist.
So when the pelvis twists, we actually measure, how many degrees up the pelvis is and what position is it sitting in.
Which makes sense why this leg would now
appear shorter. Yes. And then once we make a correction at the atlas, almost immediately there's a relaxing that happens in the spine and the pelvis relaxes down into a better position. But what's interesting is if somebody's been running around with their spine out of alignment, we'll measure them standing on the posture analyzer. We put the little strings on you. We're measuring you standing. That doesn't change right away because that's actually kind of worn into your body because it's been off for a period of time. We'll correct the top of the spine, and then typically after about a 6-week period of time, that pelvis will drop down between 50 to 60, 70%.
Oh, wow.
And so as time goes on, it'll just continue to kind of drop down as long as you stay in alignment.
And I noticed that, like, with the work that you do, because it is very different. And I want to say, like, well, once again, that for everybody, every chiropractor is different. And we're not saying one versus the other, but we wanted to educate you about this Blair-specific upper cervical chiropractic care. Because this, did I say that right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
because I know I can attest for this, and this has really changed my life, like I said. And I know that even the tables that you use are quite different. You're not just like cracking my head. That's not what you do. And for, I think, people that are really, because I've talked to people who are really scared about the popping in the neck, you don't hear anything like that when you do it. He has you on a table. Can maybe you describe what the table is like?
It takes a few minutes to get the person in the exact right position. You just lay them on their side. It's a lower table. You're in neutral. There's no twisting required.
And you're
laying on your side. Yes. And then what we do is the headpiece drops 5/16 of an inch. And so there's a little mechanism there where the headpiece actually shifts up a little. And then we use protractors to compute how we're going to basically position the atlas. And then we just very gently go in and put a force on it. And you'll just generally just feel, if you just make a little fist, you just feel a little tap on it.
It's not much at all.
And the table makes noise. And the key after the adjustment really is to rest.
Which you have us do there. You have us lay in the same spot there for how many?
7 minutes
7
usually.
minutes, and then you have a separate room where you go and lay down.
Right. And the very first time we do an adjustment, we'll rest somebody for 40 minutes. And that rest will allow the adjustment to hold.
And then also, I know that you say after the adjustment, not to look up because that can throw it out, right?
Well, that's just specific to your misalignment. If somebody has a vertebra that tends to slide a certain way, they may get directions, be careful with going up, or somebody else may be careful with looking down if they're actually have the opposite type of misalignment as you have. Okay. And actually, in the first 2 bones alone, there's over 10 million possible misalignments.
Oh, wow.
So when we do an analysis on somebody, it's as specific as a fingerprint. I mean, we'll know how they're out. We calculate how they're out. And then once we do the correction, it typically holds for weeks to months to even years.
Yeah, and I noticed that that's, something that, when you adjust me, it's not like I have to come multiple times a week. Why is that? Why is there that difference?
Well, that's because of the hold. Okay. If your body's actually clear, once we put the adjustment in the spine, if it's holding and the pelvis is relaxed like we described, and the nervous system is actually not irritated at that point from the atlas, that allows the body to begin healing. And the key really is to give it time, where you spend time being clear, and that's when the healing actually happens. So it's not required to come in and get adjusted every day or 3 times a week or even 2 times a week. If somebody's in acute pain, we may keep a pretty close eye on them, but generally my schedules are much, much less than what an average chiropractor would use.
Yeah. Well, if somebody's interested in finding out how to find either you, or maybe they're in another part of the world or even this country, United States, that's where we're at, how would they locate somebody who does your specific type of chiropractic care?
Well, we have a website. It's blairchiropractic.com, BLAIR, chiropractic.com. And then there's a link on there that says locate a doctor.
Okay.
And there'll be doctors in every state, and I think we've got a couple in Canada as well. If you're out of the country, or if you don't find anybody there, there's another link, or another website, upupcspine.org, O-R-G. If you Google that, it should come up, and that gives a link. It was put together by a person in Australia, and that has actually worldwide links to upper cervical chiropractors. Okay. And that actually lists the different techniques. There's different forms of upper cervical chiropractic. The Blair work is what I actually do. I love it. The adjustments hold really well, but I've studied several of the upper cervical techniques, and they're all excellent.
And you are located in Rancho Santa Margarita, California.
Yes.
So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do that? Do you have a website?
Call my office. I don't have a website. Okay. There's a billboard out there that's in the internet somewhere that people can find me on. Okay. But you can also find me, yes, and you can also find me on that same Blair Chiropractic website. And my office number is just 949-589-9962. You can also just look up Dr. Tomp, T-O-M-P, and you'll find me.
Thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
It was wonderful to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Part of being holistically successful, holistically healthy is what I'm going to talk about right now, and that's being positive. And why is being positive important? It is probably, if not the most important, clearly one of the most important things you can do to be whole, to be successful, to be happy, because it matters. If stuff's coming in you or going out of you that's negative, you're going to feel down, you're going to feel depressed, your life isn't going to go well. So there's really 2 aspects of positive. One is external and one is internal, or inside here. And let's start with the external. What is the external? External is friends, people you associate with, what you watch on TV, what you listen to on the radio, what you read, anything that's external that's coming in, because it matters. And I often use the analogy, if you're like a computer, all day long things are being typed in. And whatever's being typed in, it's going to be typed out at the end of the day. So if all day long good things are coming in, wonderful things are coming in, you're going to hear great things. You're going to feel good things. And you're going to feel good. But if all day long, you're seeing negative images, you're involved with negative conversations, it's going to go poorly. So it's important for all of us to make sure that that which is around us is positive, is upbeat, is building us up. And that's what this show's about, the very positive, healthy show. And obviously there are other shows you could watch. And as much as hopefully this show makes you walk away saying, wow, these are really things I can grow in, I'm excited about, other shows will really make you feel the opposite. So not to dissuade you from watching other shows, but pay attention. They matter, because you're really like that computer. Whatever gets typed in comes out. So if you use the awareness saying, okay, what is happening to me? What do I listen to? There's no one type of music that is necessarily better than another. But if you listen to music that is being really critical, attacking people, cutting people down, it's going to influence you. If you're at your work and you're in conversations that are negative or cutting people down, it's going to impact you. I remember once years ago, I was on a bus trip, and it was with a bunch of people, and there were several people that got involved in a conversation that was very negative. It was very much attacking another person that wasn't on the bus. It was more of a celebrity. And I chose not to listen because I don't like to participate in those things. So I started reading my book, and the person said, well, what do you think about that? I said, oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't really listening because I don't like to partake in conversations like that. It may have been rude, but I set up a boundary because I don't want to participate in negativity. It affects you, it affects me. So I think the thing to do is start using your awareness, saying, okay, are the people in my life, are the shows in my life, what I'm reading, what I'm watching, is it a good, positive influence? If it is, I can pretty much guarantee you're going to feel better. If it's negative, again, I can pretty much guarantee you're going to feel, badly inside or bad. So, but the next equally, really probably more important concept of being positive is what goes on here all day long. Because what's happening is your mind is just constantly giving commentary on things. And sometimes it's positive and sometimes it's negative. But if it's being negative throughout the day, it's going to influence you. It's going to wear you out. It's going to wear your spirits down. We know that with people that are depressed. We absolutely know this. When people struggle with depression, they are all day long hearing self-critical things about themselves and self-critical things about other people. And one of the most effective tools for treating depression is literally just changing their thoughts. But that's across the board with anyone's life, is what is happening inside here. And you probably, or you may not even know what that is. So again, using the awareness, start paying attention to what's going on in here. And that was one of the things that really helped me when I started to being self-aware and say, who am I? What am I thinking? I was able to, slowly but progressively change my thoughts. And a little thing that helped me that I encourage people to think about is I got a hold of CDs, I got a hold of material that I could listen to in my car where people were very positive, they were upbeat, they were just talking a lot about what we're talking about. You could take this thing and make our shows into episodes, or get our, we have one of our CD books we have is How to Live a Positive Life. And if you listen to that over and over and over again, what you'll find is your mind will begin to change, because new ideas are coming in and new ideas will be going out. And these new ideas are positive. And we all ultimately inside are very healthy. But because we have so much gunk inside, we have to kind of wash that out. So initially you may not notice much difference as you start being around and thinking more positively. But as that gunk gets cleared out, you will feel your spirits uplifted. You will feel yourself change. And you'll just see that depression dissipates. Sadness goes away. And you start feeling happy. You actually wake up in the morning, instead of saying, oh, another day, you wake up and say, wow, another wonderful day that I get to experience. Thank you. So be positive. Learn about the incredible importance of being positive. Surround yourself with positive people and watch it change your life. Peace.
Our second question of the week comes to us from Michelle T. from New York, New York. And she writes in, I am looking for different ways to relax at the end of a long day. Oftentimes, I just want a glass of wine and to go to bed. Can you give me some other, maybe more positive ways to relax at the end of the day?
Yeah, I like that question because I think a lot of people can relate to that question. It's at the end of the day, you've gone to work or whatever you're doing during the day, you're just exhausted. You want to do something to relax because that's important for us. And obviously there are a lot of people that will choose, alcohol because it works. It does actually relax you.
But the unfortunate part sometimes is that when one glass isn't enough and then you need more and more because our body builds a tolerance. And then you need a couple glasses of wine, a martini here and there, and then, more and more before you know you've drank a whole bottle of wine.
Well, and your body's asking you, help me to relax. So listen to your body. But why not? It's like saying if you're hungry, you can eat a candy bar or you can eat an apple. What's the difference? I mean, the apple's good for you and the candy bar may fill you up, but it's not good for you. So let me give you two of my favorite things to do at the end of the day to relax. And I share this with everybody if I can, and share everyone too, if you don't mind. The first one is at the end of the day, come home and just go for a walk. Just walk around your neighborhood, make it leisure, doesn't have to be fast paced. Just go for a walk for, 20 minutes, half an hour. And you'll be amazed at how relaxing you'll feel at that time, particularly if it's a ritual. And if you're in a relationship, go with your significant other. If you have children, go with them. If you have a dog, take that. But just go for a walk. It's a really great way to unwind. And then the last thing I really recommend you to do at the end of the day is to meditate. And as you know, I'm very big into meditation, and we've had other episodes on meditation, and we have books and stuff on it. But just learn how to meditate. At the end of the day, say 20 minutes a day, just before you go to bed. You can even do it in bed. Just sit down, still your mind, and be at peace. And what you'll find is that is probably the most magical, wonderful way to relax. There's nothing better than that, I don't think, on the planet besides meditation. And all the research supports that it is so good for you. It will take you to that wonderful dream, deep sleep that you can seldom get even when you're sleeping in a matter of minutes. I can actually get there. I've done it for so long in a matter of breaths. So learn to meditate. Make it part of your life, and it really will change you. And perhaps you have some other suggestions?
I do, yeah. One of my rituals at the end of a long day when I've had a stressful day is I will take a long hot shower. So not really good for the water shortage, so sorry about that. But for me, it's what I need. I just take a hot shower and I just sit in the shower instead of taking a bath. Sometimes I can take a bath too if it's been really, really stressful. And I just I just relax. Maybe it's a form of meditation in the sense too, because I just close my eyes and I just take deep breaths, and I try not to let my mind think about all the many things that I have to do and all the many things that I had done throughout the day. It's my way just to really wash off the day in a sense. I just wash my hair, I just do everything, and I feel so much better and so much more relaxed at the end of the day. Another thing that I like to do is listen to relaxing music. And so sometimes, driving on my way home from work, I have some CDs in my car that are very relaxing, and I listen to those. And if I've had an extremely stressful day, I mix the two. So I take a shower and I have music playing. Don't put that CD player too close to the shower, please. But I have that, playing for myself, and I'll actually even light candles, just to set the mood for myself, just because it just really, really calms me down. And I'm telling you, it has helped me so tremendously. So those are some of the things that I encourage you to do. So hopefully those are some helpful tips for you, and thank you so much for your question. Thank you. Recently, my mom sent me an email with a quote because she knows that I love quotes, and I love to hear the ones that other people really enjoy. So she went to a leadership group years ago, and this was the quote that she heard, and it was a really, really great quote. Take time to work. It is the price of success. Take time to think. It is the source of power. Take time to play. It is the secret of perpetual youth. Take time to be friendly. It is the road to happiness. Take time to love and be loved. It is the privilege of the gods. Take time to share. Life is too short to be selfish. Take time to laugh. Laughter is the music of the soul. So take time. Thank you. Thank you for joining us on the Holistic Success Show. We hope you have a wonderful week, and please don't forget to write to us with your questions, because we can't do it without you.
And those of you that did, we're going to send you a free copy of a book or CD or DVD of your choice that we'll autograph to you, and thank you as a way of a thank you.
Thank you so much, and we hope you have a wonderful week, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.